Hey guys, can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Perfect.
Yes.
Hi. Hi, Sri. How are you?
Hey guys, very good. And a few more people are joining. So how's everyone doing?
Good.
Is anybody in the San Francisco Bay Area with all the fires going on? Somebody posted this picture. I thought it was pretty amazing in Reddit. So yeah. All the fires and smoke. Yeah, it's been pretty pretty intense here, right? There are a lot of wildfires burning, and the air is pretty bad. So I don't know if you guys know this website. This is some place I usually go to see.
You are based on San Jose.
I'm in San Jose, actually. Yeah. No, not San Jose. Yeah.
How close is it?
Yeah, actually, yeah. We are usually far. We are not close at all. We are far out. Okay, my browser's kind of stopped working. There you go. Hold on, guys. I'm gonna restart here. Give me 1 second. There you go.
I have some relatives there. At least one family has been relocated. They have been evacuated, and another one is waiting. So.
Wow. Okay. All right, guys. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna restart here because I'm kind of slowing down quite a bit. One moment. Hopefully this should be fine. All right. So let's get going, guys. So I want to catch up with you guys a little bit and also see how we are doing. And so a couple of things I want to point out. And I know if you guys are ready to do a quick, share your work, we'll do that too. So from the welcome page, right, here's the series link. So what I've done is I actually posted, kind of came up with a guide because people ask me, okay, what are we doing week to week, right? So something's going on. So I kind of posted the guide here. Again, same thing, right? Everything in the welcome page. We look at this. So this is what I kind of came up with. So week 1, we did this. Week 2, we are doing this, right? Next week, week 3. Right? So again, this is a very kind of a rough guide, and we will adjust as we go along. But so far, this seems to be okay. So how do you guys, and I'd like to get your feedback too. How do you guys feel about the work? Is it too much, too little? So, feel free to tell me, what you guys think.
Yeah, I feel that assignments has a pressure to get it completed. So,
Yeah.
So because of that one, not able to focus more on the theoretical side. So maybe we need to little balance between that learning part and exercise.
Sure. Yep. No, that's a good point. Yep. Very good. Anybody else have any comment?
I think assignments are good.
and the links you provide are really good as well. One thing I felt missing in the assignments, and maybe it's just too early to judge them, there's no practical applications so far.
Right.
The Numpy exercise felt like a math class.
Exactly. We are kind of learning like the basics, right? Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good observation. And I will tell you guys this too in a second. Yeah, actually, but so here's how I look at this, right? So those are two good feedback, and I'll definitely hear more of you guys, but I want to kind of address those real quick. So if you look at the Numpy, right? So let me go back here. Oh, right.
And hey, I'm Lucy. I'm just joining you guys today. I didn't do the other meetings, and I haven't looked at I haven't gone through the other lessons yet. So
no worries, no worries. Yeah, I think you can join pretty much any time.
Yeah.
Because you know, like for example, so this is the kind of outline we're kind of following, right? So let's say you know Python reasonably well, so you can say, hey, you know what, I'm good here, right? I can sort of skip week 1, and then maybe sort of start with join week 2 and 3 and forward. So yeah, so that's why we want to make this flexible, because we have people with very different skill set, right? Some people have been doing Python, some people have been doing data science. Like for example, if you're doing data science and then you sort of know Numpy and Pandas pretty well, then you probably want to go from week 5 to week 6, right? So so we like to keep it flexible. So yeah, so let me quickly show you guys the some of the explanation why. So for example, let me show you Numpy real quick, right? So when you do Numpy, right? So the goal here is have you guys get used to the Numpy syntax, right? And so I sort of split them into like different sections, like some of the basics, indexing, searching, things like this, right? And this may feel like, hey, I'm just doing this. What's the point, right? Why am I kind of doing this? Like for example, how am I slicing the array, right? What's the point of this? So trust me when I tell you, when you can start doing machine learning, we are going to use Numpy and Pandas to basically analyze the data, right? And a lot of the times, I see people struggling with basic Numpy and Pandas because they're kind of saying, okay, hey, I got this data. How do I kind of get this? How do I, how do I extract this attribute? How do I just, say, I have this column that's supposed to be numbers, but I have like some strings, right? You know what I mean? So those things kind of will kind of, consume a lot of time. So the idea here is going to have some basic chops in Numpy and Pandas. So you'll, because if you look at the machine learning, kind of the way you look at like this, right? Let me see if I can bring this up here. Right, and this is a good question, and again, we want to make sure you guys are comfortable here too, right? So, let me show you guys one thing, and I'll kind of explain why. There you go. So when you do machine learning, this is the kind of process we are going to follow. And I'll send this guys out to you guys in a little later. So the first stage is basically dealing with data prep, right? So basically when you get your data, clean your data, extract the data, right? And you can pretty much ask any data scientist, this is where that consumes a lot of time, right? And then we are going to look at sort of, how do we explore the data, basic understanding of the data. Then we sort of, choose an algorithm, build a model, evaluate the algorithm, right? And then if the algorithm didn't do well, we sort of go back and sort of repeat this, right? And you will see, like, scikit algorithms, and we're going to look at, those are very easy to use. So what we want to kind of get comfortable is sort of the, right? Not just special in the algorithm, but everything around the algorithm, right? That's what I think, will be make you more productive. So, and this part, right, sort of the data kind of, cleansing, analyzing part, this is something some people find kind of boring and say, hey, this is kind of right, tedious work. It is. Okay, I'm going to lie to you guys. But you can talk to anybody who does data science, and this is what consumes most of the time. So I kind of want you guys to have some basic chops ready. So when you guys, when you look at data, and I'll ask you guys, okay, all right, guys, go ahead and extract this column and make sure they're all numbers, right? And you have to do something like, okay, hey, this column has to be numbers, it cannot be null. Can you make sure of that, right? So what I'm going to use, we are going to use scikit. We are going to come back to pandas, right? And right, Numpy, these guys. So that's why having some basic working knowledge would be good. Now, having said this, right? So the way I sort of designed the exercise, like I wanted to cover some of the, some of the most common things. Like if you're short on time, right? You don't have to kind of go through all of this. See what I'm saying? For example, you say, hey, you know what? I'm going to just skip matrix. I'm just going to write because matrix I'll deal with later. I just want to like look at just, just section A and B. You're totally welcome to do that, right? So only you can kind of, right, based on your availability, do this. But I kind of wanted to, for completeness, right? I kind of want to make sure we kind of cover everything. And they are kind of graded like, the star rating, like, 1 star, 2 star, right? 1 star is like easy, right? So kind of look at the easy ones. Maybe sort of try a couple of, maybe 2 star ones, right? Just to kind of, you get a hang of it. And then trust me, this is not a knowledge you are just learning just for the sake of learning. This will come in handy when you do data analysis. Yeah. So good question though. Yeah. And I'm glad you guys are asking those questions, right? Any other kind of questions or comments, guys? Kind of right again, please let me know.
And this Doris. So I just joined, basically just signed up the class. So for last week, I think last week was the first week, right? And so if I want to catch up, so do you have material that I can go back?
Right. So are you part of the Google class already?
No, I just joined. Brand new.
Right. So yeah.
Everything.
So what you want to do is, so I hope you have a link to this page, right? The welcome page, right? Yeah. So kind of go through, and there are like a few to-do items for for you guys to kind of sketch out. Join those. And once you join the Google Classroom, that's where we are posting the assignments. So right. So let me see here. Sorry, Google Classroom, right? And we are posting that, and you will see how to, once you join the class, it will kind of show up on your classroom, and then you'll see assignments, right, kind of coming up. And then you can sort of start from the beginning, or kind of start with this week, either way, right? So, yeah.
Oh, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Very good, guys. What else? What else we should talk about, guys? Any other questions or comments? So, and kind of, again, sort of my my approaches, for example, right? Like, I can sort of teach you guys Numpy, but honestly, it's kind of Numpy is all about practice. Like, for example, I've been using this for a while, and sometimes, if somebody says, hey, how do I do this? I kind of have to go look at the API, right? Because I don't kind of right, because it kind of evaporates. Excuse me. So that's the thing. Numpy, we look at Numpys, and I'm going to show a quick section on Numpy today, but it's all about practice. So the basic stuff, I'm going to have you guys practice very quickly and get out of the way. And the reason these I'm giving you these pointers is for efficient learning, right? Because we all have life, we all have work, family, kids, and we don't want to just go and read a book, but so kind of do like a pointed learning, right? So for example, I say, hey, how do we kind of right, print out the contents of the array, right? Excuse me. So things like this. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. 1 second. All right. So we'll zip through the initial part of the coming ups very quickly, and then once we sort of get into the actual actual algorithms and things, then we'll spend some time going through it, right? Okay. Good, guys. What else we should change or adjust? So again, feel free to tell me, what you guys like, what we should maybe change. I'm very open to this, right? So, by the way, I'll tell you guys. So, a few people wrote to me personally and then say, hey, this week is very busy, work is busy, I'm under pressure, so I'm unable to do the class. So should I continue, right? Please continue with the class, right? So I know some weeks you're going to be pretty busy. Some weeks, right, you can catch up. So please stick to the class. Because this way you get the benefit out of it, right? So don't kind of drop off. And if you're working with a partner, just tell them, hey, I'm not going to be able to do my assignment, right? Just so you know. Just communicate with your partner, and right, yeah. But please stick to the class. I hope you can. All right, guys. What else we should talk about?
Hey, I have a question. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I have a question. You might not want to answer this, but it came up. I've been doing like tutorials, just YouTube stuff for the machine learning. And the guy that I really like, he uses Spider. And it's like the only IDE he'll use. But I've been
Yeah.
I've been told to focus more on Jupyter notebooks. So I don't know if you feel like just explaining why people prefer one over the other.
Yeah. So great question.
For machine learning specifically.
Right. Honestly, a lot of these kind of personal preference. I still know people who just use VI, just write plain Python code, because that's kind of what they're comfortable at. But Jupyter is a good bet, and I like Jupyter personally, right? So it's a bit of, take this with a little grain of salt.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's with Jupyter, everything is web-based, and I can, when I do plots and graphs and things like this, I can see right there on the page, right? That's very convenient to me. I know some IDs will show you in line, but to me, all right, Jupyter notebooks, just convenient because they're lightweight. They run pretty much on any machine, Windows, Mac, Linux, right? Anyway, so it's just that. So and there are other people who use PyCharm extensively because they swear by it. So yeah, so I won't lock you guys into just doing one, but in this one we just choose Jupyter because this way you can use a Google Colab, right? And that supports Jupyter notebooks, out of the box, and it makes sharing and things so much easier, right? That's it. But I look at it and say code is code. At the end of the day, it's just code, right? It's just Python code. Whatever you're convenient with, you're fine. So anyway, and then one thing one thing that'll go for Jupyter Notebook is with Colab, they give you free access to GPUs, like graphics cards. And this becomes important when you start doing deep learning because, a lot of the deep learning algorithms will, they are very intense. And if you run on a plain CPU, it'll take easily 30, 40 minutes to complete. But when you run GPU, it'll be done in 5 minutes, right? So yeah. So anyway, but that's further down the line. But since you're doing plain machine learning, it's kind of a moot point at the moment. But it's kind of a looking ahead. To me, this is a pretty good deal. And they make it free, so that's pretty nice. So yeah. So don't worry about the environment.
Well, can I ask? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Yeah, don't worry the environment. Just learn the code. That's what I always say, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So is it like I can just use my Jupyter Labs even though he's doing it in Spider?
That's fine. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of people use PyCharm, so that's another great IDE. Some people even use Eclipse because that has Python support. Yeah. So yeah. So I've been using Jupyter, and that's fine. It just mostly it's because I'm comfortable. It does the job, and that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Very good. What else, guys?
So do you know if TensorFlow comes already in Anaconda?
I don't know if they package it, but it's very easy to install.
Okay.
So I'll give you guys a guide on this one. Yeah. So the one we are kind of working up towards is so TensorFlow covers deep learning.
Okay.
So that kind of builds on machine learning. So kind of two distinct things, so machine learning and deep learning. So we are going to be focusing machine learning on the first part of the course. So a lot of the concepts we are going to be learning applies to deep learning as well. So yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Sure thing. Go ahead, guys.
So this is my first week, and I'm just trying to catch up with you guys. And first of all, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Sure.
And so how do I catch up? I mean, you can consider me more or less a newbie to the modern data science world. I'm more from a traditional data management, MDM data warehousing, background kind of guy. So I was looking at some basic stuff that you had taught last week, and if I had to access those material, how do I get that?
Sure. So it's straightforward. So basically, I hope you have the link to this page, right? The class notes. So if you sign up, I'll just put it here as well on the chat window, just in case. Right. So, right. Okay. So basically, everything is on this page. So kind of follow through this, and we are basically doing two things right now. So if you want to look at the curriculum, look at this the series, right? So I'll be updating this one. I think I had the first 5 weeks kind of posted, and I'll kind of update them, right? because I don't want to sort of go too far ahead because I really want to see kind of how we are progressing. Are we going too fast, too slow? And then I'm going to make the adjustments. Now, so the reason kind of that we are doing the course, like there are so many materials outside, right? I mean, there are some of the really good materials. So my point is that, and the guide, the way this class is structured is really giving us good pointers. So you don't waste time kind of, just, Googling around and kind of, just jumping around, YouTube videos. So we kind of give you some really good videos, and, it was what I used, so you can go and learn very quickly, right? Because of the, I want this class to be very efficient, right? I know you guys are doing this on your own time. Is that going to make sense? So that's why, there's not a whole lot of lectures, but lot of labs, right? Because you guys are kind of learning this in theory, and doing the labs. That's why I want to sort of drive this, because given the limited time we meet, we just meet like 1 hour a week, right? So it's not a lot of time to do extensive theory. But as you kind of go a little deeper, I'll kind of shift more towards theory and explanation. But for the basic stuff, it's all, right now it's all you guys kind of, just get them done quickly, and then we'll kind of keep moving. Yeah. So anyway, so start with the welcome sign, and you want to join the Google Classroom. And also we have Slack channels and Google discussion groups. So if you have questions, feel free to post there. So, we'll help you out, right? So get started with the Google Classroom, and then there you will sort of see the assignments being, submitted. I kind of start with the assignments. Yeah. So, all right, guys.
Do you record this video, by the way?
Yeah, I am actually, yeah. So, and I'll share with you guys. By the way, the recordings, I post them at the end of the, right here, right? Again, everything in this place, right? So you'll see the recording. I'll post them at the end of the session, right?
Okay,
so,
thank you.
Yeah, so yeah, kind of, yeah. So basically, this page is, your basically go-to page. Kind of, I'm basically putting them all here just to kind of keep things simple, so you can pretty much find everything, right? So scroll to the end, and you will see session recordings at the end. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, all right, guys, and also, right? I mean, if you guys find like a good YouTube video, right? Good, the good free class from edX or something, do let me know. But the way I look at this is, we want this to be very, see, here's the thing, right? It has to be very pointed. Okay, let me show you guys what I mean by this. Like, for example, let's say, and there are a lot of these guys like this. All right. So, I mean, this is one of the great, collection of links. So, for example, let's say MOOCs, right? There we go, right? So, we go to MOOCs. It's like, okay, so, right? So, for example, there's a Udacity course, right? And the Coursera course. But things are these, these courses takes like, a couple of weeks to complete. And I kind of want this to be like, these are like, it's like me sort of giving you a book and say, here, go read this book, right? That's not very focused. We want this to be really, really focused, and that's why if you look at the guide, it'll say exactly, what you want. For example, let's say Numpy, right? I'm saying, hey, here's a Numpy, right? I'm saying read this chapter, right? I'm not saying, read this book, right? Because, we have limited time. So that's why, I want this to be very focused learning. And when you guys give me links, I would appreciate links like very focused. Like, for example, this guy really explains, like how the Numpy array slicing works. That's it. You just spend like 5 minutes reading through this, and you're like, oh, cool, I get it, right? That's it. You're not really you're spending like an hour or two just reading through a couple of chapters of a book. Does that make sense, guys? So we want this to be very efficient learning, and at least the initial basic parts, we want this to go very quickly, right? So anyway, that's a goal. Again, like I said, and this is kind of my vision, but I'm happy to kind of adjust and make changes because the goal is what you guys have to learn very quickly, right? And I'm happy to make any changes you guys recommend. So, good, guys. What else? Anything else we should discuss, guys? So for the assignments, what do you guys think about this format? Like, for example, like these questions, I kind of want to make them very specific. A lot of the time, you sort of know what to expect, right? So it kind of, and a lot of these things you're kind of, right? You say, okay, hey, okay, yes. How do I do this? Right. For example, when I say create an array and print like this, exactly what the what's expected value is, right? So is this reasonable, guys? Because I want to make sure these are clear and you're not wasting too much time. All right. Is this work for you guys reasonably? for quick learning?
My question to you is, do you want us to explore, or if you give us hint, we are just going to look at that? Let me be very frank.
Yeah, so I provide some hints, but again, there's more than one way of doing something, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of want to just get you, because let's say you're new to this. You're like, okay, how do I even start this, right? And then, so this will kind of get you started. But maybe once you get some experience, you may say, okay, maybe, hey, I can do it in another way, right? Yeah. And that's why I kind of want to join you guys with partners, because when you see somebody's code, you're like, oh, cool, I get it, right? This is another way of doing it. So, we all kind of learn from each other, right? So that's the idea. All right, guys. What else we should talk about?
It's the timing a little bit of coordinating with the coursework.
Yeah.
For example, I found out that I have to resubmit mine with changes to names of the files and names inside the files. And then I found out that there was assigned, a person to be in a group with. And I sent my email, was it a couple of days ago? I don't think I have received an answer yet. So I don't know about the timing of working in groups,
Yeah.
If it is coming late.
Is this Wesley? If this is Wesley, I am your partner, and I looked at your notebook.
All right. Yeah, I was just hoping to receive also an email a little bit early, but I was just busy today. So that's why sometimes,
Yeah, I was thinking of editing. I was thinking of editing your notebook, but I don't have permission. So we are supposed to present something today. So in one of the notebooks, I'm going to show, what your code was, what I think, is good about it, right?
Okay, fair enough.
Gotcha. So again, guys, so this is, something, we're trying to figure out, right? So again, obviously, I wouldn't have time to just, grade everybody's work, because it's just, like, I can see we're like about, almost 50 people, right? So I kind of want to distribute this as much as possible. So I kind of came with like just a simple partner assignment. Again, it's completely random, right? So, and some people said, hey, I want to partner with this guy and I want to partner with that guy. I'm like, sure, right? Kind of, work among yourselves, that's completely fine. Is this model working out? I mean, I know we just kind of did like 1 week on this one. Do we need to make changes to this? I'm open to your feedback. I think, you are the one coordinating and working with each other. So what do you guys think? Is this a reasonable model going forward?
I think it's just from your part. I think don't you think it's going to get a bit hectic to assign a different partner every week? Why not make a group which stays throughout the course?
Yeah, I like that idea. Actually, yeah. So we can like group as in like maybe like, like 4 or 5 people around there, right? Would that be fine?
I mean, even number would be nice so that we can partner up.
Perfect. Yeah, actually,
I think that offers a lot of continuity. Like if you're coordinating schedules and times with somebody, like I coordinated with somebody in the same time zone, that kind of takes some of that problem away. And then if you get to know people, and then
I like that.
It offers more workability.
Gotcha. No, that's very good. Yeah, I really like this idea. So let me just put some notes so I don't forget these. So session 2. So the decisions we made. So you just want like groups, right? Yeah, it's like a kind of, I think that's even better. Groups, because sometimes when I do individual assignments, maybe the other person is busy, right? Not available, different time zone. You know what I mean? It's kind of, okay. So groups, fine. So what do you guys think about 4 people, 6 people? What do you guys think? Even more, maybe, per person? I mean, per group.
I feel like more than 3 or 4 would probably be too much.
Okay. So should we maybe 4? Let's try 4, right? And then we'll kind of see how this works out.
Yeah.
And we will adjust, right? Does that make sense, guys? Okay. So now the next question I'm going to ask you guys, how do you do this group? Should I assign randomly? because one of the feedback I got last time was, hey, you know, they say, hey, my partner's like in Melbourne, Australia, and our time zones are like completely the opposite, right? So, and at the same time, if we just ask us, hey, go find your partner, then it's kind of like an arms race, right? You know what I mean? It's kind of like, you know, it's gonna become a little chaotic. So how should we do this? Should I just do like random assignment and maybe you guys can kind of work among yourself and maybe change groups if you guys want to?
Maybe you can put the cities there. Based on that, we can.
Actually, yeah, let me do this. Yeah, let me put a let me put a new column saying time zone, right? So this way, right? Time zones, you know, city, whatever, right? So this way, actually, I'll just time zone because you know probably that's probably easier, right? And then, by the way, this link to this document, if you're wondering where that is, it's all here, right? Kind of, you know, so right. So I'll just say group assignments. Right. Okay. So, and then this document is editable, so you can basically add your details. I'm gonna put your time zone here, right? And then so this way, when I do the grouping, I will try to allocate, you know, group people in the same time zone too. Is that gonna make sense, guys? Yeah.
Is everybody in the same skill level too? I mean, maybe many people are in level 1 versus some people are in level 3 or something like that, right?
Gotcha. Should I make a note here? So maybe you can put this in the
I'm
notes
just
section.
thinking.
Yeah, you can. So you can see sort of some people already kind of started putting notes. You can say something like, you know, I mean, I'll just do this, right? I'll say something like, I'll just make an example here. I'll say, hey, you know, so I'll say no Python plus say pandas, something like, you know what I mean? Like you can sort of put your skill set there, right there, and then we will see, right? And we have people across a lot of time zone, guys. So, you know, I mean, so there's a little challenging than usual, but we can work through. So put your time zones here, and I will try to allocate you guys with the teams, you know, time size. And you know, like say you have to change. You don't need to you don't need my permission. You can simply email the person and then say, hey, you know, would you mind switching to my group and whatever, right? You can work it out. And then I'll put I'll make another sheet here. So I'll fill this out later. Groups, right? I'm gonna put like something like group 1. Right, and it's going to have, you know, names, right? Name 1. You guys get the idea, right? It'll have this, and then if you want to sort of self-organize, please do so as well. All right, and I'm completely fine with this. So, and this sheet should be editable to everyone, right? So, you know, if you want to sort of self-organize, you know, more the merrier, right? You can even give your name group, I mean, your group's names if you guys want. You know, like one of those competition names, right? so I'm cool. All right, guys, so let's do that. Actually, I like the idea. Thank you for that. I like the idea of the groups because rather than individuals, because that's a little easier to coordinate and you know, work together. Yeah, yep, that's perfect. Yep. All right, guys. Very good. That's great. Anything else? So what else? Okay, we did groups. I'll say for self-organize, and I will assign groups later. Right. So for right now, guys, you guys can sort of self-organize with with each other. You can use Slack or Google Groups to communicate with each other and find your group. Yep. I think this will work pretty well. Very good, guys. Excellent. Anything else? Any other feedback? Any other comments? Again, remember the overall goal is this, guys, right? Basically, you should be able to do this on your own time, but efficient learning, right? That's what I'm after. Meaning we shouldn't be wasting too much time watching like, you know, some random videos. You know what I mean? Just this should be like, okay, this is what I want to learn. And my goal here is, you know, giving you guys the path, right? Because there's so many things. We do machine learning, right? If we do like machine learning videos, right? I'm sure you're going to get like, 200,000 videos. Where do you start, right? So there are lots of links, lots of videos you can, you can watch, but not all of them are high quality, right? You could spend a lot of time just watching this thing and say, oh, okay, yeah, that was a waste of 5 minutes. So my goal here is giving you guys very pointed pointers, so you can quickly go and say, okay, yes, I want to spend like say 10 minutes reading this, reading this chapter. That's it. And then after that, And also, one thing I will notice this, I'll tell you guys, like, maybe you won't get everything in the first pass. That's okay. Just kind of quickly go through the exercise and say, hey, do I understand this? If you don't get, let's say, for example, you don't really understand slicing. Okay, sure. Go back and read the slicing, right? Again, so that's how I always recommend iteration, right? Quickly iterate, and that's the most efficient thing as one. Because if you say, hey, you know what, I'm going to read this entire chapter before I start doing exercise, that may be the most efficient way. So read some, attempt exercise, come and say, okay, now I'm a little weak on this. Let me kind of read a little bit on slicing. And let's say if you found a nice resource, email it to me, right? I'm happy to add this. But I also don't want this to be like a bloated list, because we want this to be very efficient, right? Again, that you'll hear this word all the time, efficient learning, right? So good, guys. All right, so assignment, you guys are I'm gonna let you guys take the first tab. Self-organize, please. Once you put your time zone in, and then in a couple of days, I will, if there's anybody not assigned to a group, I will assign you guys to a group. And also, I know some of the guys are kind of signed up for the class, and they're unable to attend because they're in a different time zone. So that might happen too. We'll deal with them, on a case-by-case basis. All right, guys. What else? So is the assignment load? I mean, so that's something. Some people say, hey, I feel like this is like a little too much work. Here's the thing, right? You don't have to complete 100% of all the all the tasks, right? You can choose as little kind of do like some of the basics, and if you have time, kind of try the sort of the harder one, right? So again, the goal is to kind of get you guys familiar with some basic concepts. Like for example, there are books written in pandas, right? So we're going to spend a lot of time reading entire pandas, but right, I just want some basics handy. Good. All right, guys. What else? Anything else we should discuss? This has been good so far. Yeah, the sessions are recorded. So so again, I'll put the recordings here, right, in the same welcome page. You will see, right? Okay. Go ahead, please.
So, is there a goal or some kind of a timeline or a target, like where we are heading, or at least a logical?
Yeah. So good question. So I sort of came up with like a little curriculum. So it's on the website right now. It's on the link right here. So this is kind of what I'm getting at. So right now, what we are doing is like kind of the prereqs for machine learning, right? So like week 1, 2, 3, 4, we are learning the basics of some of the basic data analysis, and then week 5 you sort of see I'm sort of starting scikit, right? So that's the plan so far. So once you sort of get through this, the other algorithms and everything will go pretty quickly, because these algorithms are very easy to use, and you'll see when you see the code, you'll see how easy the code is, right? So does that make sense, guys? So I have like first 5 weeks here, and I'll kind of update this. And basically, we are kind of following this path, right? So we can, again, so where is this whole thing? It's actually on the very first link, right, about the series. We click on this, we get to the page, and this is kind of the idea, right? You're kind of following this path. So we're kind of in the Python basics. We're kind of in 1 and 2 at the moment, right? And then I want to sort of get these done, and then so you can go into machine learning in about week 5, I'm expecting. Does that make sense? Yeah. Now, how fast, we progress, that's up to us, right? If you say, hey, this is going the right pace, fine, we'll continue on. If you think this is, too fast, too slow, we'll make adjustments. Yeah. And sometimes people ask me, why am I learning visualization on a machine learning class? Trust me when I say this, and I've seen this way too many times. Sometimes, when we do consulting gigs, we go look at some of the code, and then they'll say, hey, we just tried machine learning. We are not really getting good results. So then I'll ask them, okay, how's your data looking like? Do you have outliers? They'll say, I don't know. I just ran the algorithm, right? so the reason is because, they cannot skip it, because, algorithms are interesting. Everyone says, hey, here's the data. I'm going to just push through the algorithm and see what comes out, right? Usually, if you don't understand the data, trust me, you're not going to be a very effective machine learning engineer. So that's why these skills, even though they kind of seem basic, they will save you lots and lots of time, and they will make you a much better machine learning engineer, right, down the street. So that's why we are kind of, I want to get these all out of the way. Then when we jump into the machine learning, because remember, every machine learning class you do, All right, I'll ask you guys, okay, what's the data look like? Do we have outliers? Okay, yes, then go please fix the outliers. You guys are going to use all these to do all that. And also you do stats as well, right? Kind of, right? Right, so these are the kind of what I call prereqs. Does that make sense, guys? Kind of like, kind of where we're heading. Yeah. And a lot of the time, I mean, and I'm sure you guys have done this too. It's my company's business is teaching, teaching technology, right? So we look at a lot of the other classes out there. A lot of the time they will just jump right into the algorithm. They'll say, okay, let's start the regression. Sure, that's fine. But what I see is like, then people sort of just learn the code and say, okay, if I just copy this 5 lines of code, I know how to do regression. But they wouldn't know anything beyond that. Like if I go and ask them, right, is your data evenly distributed? Do you have data askew in your data? Because regression tools are not that great. They don't know how, right? Because why? Because we don't know the fundamentals to kind of look at the data, right? That's why my focus is this. Anywho, and this is what we teach in our clients. So like for example, in our clients, right, we actually go through the exact same path. Like so when you train like Walmart or Cisco, all these guys, this is what we do, right? So yeah, okay, let's get the fundamentals out of the way. Then algorithm will go much quicker. All right, guys. So hopefully that answers the question. Again, so the idea here is, right, goal is learning machine learning, but thing is like, how do you kind of keep motivated? How is it different from just just watching a bunch of videos, right? So, and that's why I'm kind of pushing you through work with each other as a group, because then it kind of keeps you in a schedule. So my goal here is giving you guys good references, right, and kind of keep the class moving the right direction, all right? So, and again, we're still figuring out a few things, and we'll make adjustments as we go along. Good, guys. Any other questions on this one? Questions, comments, feedback?
Hey, Suzy, this is Dinesh here.
Yeah.
Yeah, if possible, can you please put a bit more focus on the data cleansing and the pre-processing part?
Gotcha. Yep.
Because the reason why I'm asking you is, whenever I went through these other curriculums, everybody seems to be talking about these sophisticated algorithms. But when I talk to people, someone from the industry, they say that 60 to 70% of their time they are spending on data cleansing and making the data format ready. And ML is just like 15 to 20% of their whole job. So
exactly.
That's the reason I'm asking you.
Actually,
so
hold on one second. Yeah, that's that's exactly right. Hold on one second. I want to show you guys something. I want to see if my Jupyter's running. Give me one moment. Yeah, so this is something, I was just teaching a class just last week. And give me one moment. That's exactly kind of to your point, right? Right, so there we go, right? So this is in a machine learning with Python class I was teaching just this week. Let me say Prosper, SVM. There you go. Let's look at SVM, right? So this is and this is a lab you guys will do as you go along, right? So and this is a solution file. So if you look at this, I'm kind of working through like this is like a telecom data. We're sort of analyzing some churn data. Anyway, so you look at this, right? And we are doing a lot of data analytics. We are looking at distributions, right? Code, and all of this is basically just shaping the data, right? The actual machine learning is this. Just 4 lines of code. So I always kind of have a big smile when I say this, because people ask me, how do you do SVM in Python? I'm like sure, that's like just literally like 2 lines of code, right? This is it. This part is simple, guys. What is important is, okay, so now that you have the model, right? Okay, do you understand the model? For example, is your model overfitting, right? Is your model really producing the right result, right? And if you look at a lot of machine learning classes, a lot of the time we'll kind of, you'll find that they kind of stop it right there. They'll say, okay, here we created the model, that's it, we are done, right? But I really want you guys, and again, I'm kind of giving a little preview. When we do this, you will see we actually go much deeper, because if your skill is just this 3 lines, right? Honestly, that's not a very good skill. It's because you can just copy paste this code from from scikit page and then get it going. But what makes a great machine learning engineer is like everything else. Like, can you sort of massage the data into a format you really need, right? And once the algorithm is done, can you go back and analyze the algorithm and say, did the algorithm really do a good job, right? Can I go back and tweak something, right? So those are the skills I'm hoping we sort of get out of this class, guys, right? Like I remember there's, I was teaching this class at maybe like last year, I believe. Anyway, so I was told, everybody knows basic machine learning, just focus on the advanced stuff. Sure, right. So I kind of, started doing this, and I gave them a question and say, okay, all right, guys, can you just do the confusion matrix and tell me how the confusion matrix looks like? And it was like blank stares. And I was like, okay, no, and nobody heard of confusion matrix. Okay, so because these are fundamentals to all the machine learning, right? So when you do a classification algorithm, the way we kind of look at the algorithm performance is look at the confusion matrix, right? So if you don't know this, doesn't matter how advanced algorithm you're using, you're kind of at this point, clicking and praying, right? The algorithm works because you have no way of kind of, going back and tweaking the algorithm. Anyway, so as we get to this, and again, we will do all these labs, guys, right? I want to make sure, we get the fundamental. For example, can you run the algorithm without scaling the data? Now, if you don't understand, how to, and here we are going to use pandas, right? We are going to use a pandas, scaler to do this. So this is why all these things will come in handy, guys. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, that's a good, exactly. So your point is well taken. I will definitely, add some exercises around this area. Yeah. Yeah. Good question.
Excuse me, may I ask a question?
Please go ahead. Yes.
Yes, thank you. Actually, I want to know, as also this person mentioned, when you go to industry or when you see the real data, it's really dirty, So I want to know how much probably also you are going to teach us at least a little bit, one session or maybe more about cleaning. I think that's also, or pre-processing, that's the main, part.
Absolutely,
as you
yeah,
showed,
yeah.
for example, this SVM is just 2 lines of code, but in order to make your data ready to be able to use those algorithms, it's really needs lots of skills, I guess.
Exactly.
Are you going to cover
yes,
that?
we will definitely, yeah.
Somehow.
So we'll definitely we'll cover this. So the way I sort of look at this, guys, is right. So again, we'll definitely have 1 week, and I thought I could see. Show 1 second, guys. I'll show you. So here's kind of the outline. Again, this is a little too early right now, but I'll get you guys this later. But this is kind of sort of curriculum we follow, right? So the way labs go, right? So this is one of our classes we teach. So you can sort of see the same format, right? We can we're going to do Numpy, pandas, running stats, graphs, we spend data cleanup, right? Right. So feature engineering, these are important stuff. Yeah, exactly. And these are things what matters in real world, because like you said, actual algorithms are just very easy, right? I mean the APIs are so easy now. Actual algorithm itself is easy. It's like everything around the algorithm is where you'll spend a lot of time in real world. Yes, and we will focus on that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So again, how much we want to go into this, we'll kind of determine as a class, but I'll definitely have at least a week on this front, right? And so you guys can see, right, in our syllabus, like for like the first day, we usually spend a lot of time sort of learning the basics, right? And then we sort of learn doing sklearn, scikit-learn, and then we start doing linear. You can see all that. These are all the algorithms you will see, right? Yeah. So that's a process. So I kind of filled out only the first 5 weeks, guys, because I want to see how we do here, and then I'll kind of update this as we go along. But they're going to give you a sense of how the class is going to proceed, right? I want to get the basics done, and then and definitely data cleanup is one chapter. Yeah. So good, great question.
Thank you. And have you started the first session, or you have not started yet? Hello, Jupyter is started.
Yeah. So we just had a 1 week, right? So if you're joining us, this week, you're fine. See if you can sort of do some catching up on the previous week assignments. Again, there's not like a grades or anything. This is basically for your benefit, right? And you can sort of start following from this week onward.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. All right, guys. So again, important stuff, right? So please, kind of self-organize into groups. Please, I see people already kind of organizing. That's great, great. So add your name. Please add your email, right? So people can sort of contact you. And I know we have some people from India, some people in Australia even. So again, we will figure out. So again, so that's why I want to put the time zone in, and you can simply reach out to each other, right? Either on Slack or just email them. Kind of self-organized, right? And basically add your groups right here. So this way, what you're, which group you are belonging. So good, guys. That's very good. All right, guys. Anything else? Anything else we should discuss?
I just wanted to make a comment. I think that around the data cleansing or data munging topic that you kind of discussed a little bit, if people get through the basic stats section, I think that'll be a real good foundation, and then go forward.
Yeah, exactly. Very well said. And I kind of want to mention something along the line, guys. So, like for example, when you do like Numpy, like for example, instead of the Numpy, exercise, it may seem like, hey, why am I doing this? Right? It kind of seems like I'm not learning Numpy. Why am I doing pandas? But the big picture, guys, is when you sort of move further down the line, you can going to be using these guys quite a bit to basically do data cleansing, data analysis, all this stuff, right? So the basic skills are good. And the reason I kind of want you guys to do this on your own, like for example, like when you say, for example, I don't know, like let's say, create some an array and kind of, just only print numbers greater than 50 or something, right? If somebody show you the solution is pretty easy. But if you're kind of doing this on your own, it'll kind of, you'll develop your muscle memory, right? And that's important because, you don't want to be like, searching, Googling all the time, like, how do I do this in Numpy? Right? You kind of want to develop some basics. So, it will speed up your actual machine learning later on. Yeah. So, all right. Good, guys. Anything else?
I got a question. Hi, Sujay. I have a question. How do I join the classes every week? Do I need to register every week, or how does
no, actually, if you're here, you are here, right? So the keep an eye on. So basically, the way we usually communicate is using the Google Classroom, right? So there are a couple of modes of communication. Again, you guys can tell me which one works for you guys. So I made the Google Classroom available. So we can sort of do assignments and whatnot, right? So that's where it is. For communication, we usually use the Google group and the Slack channel. So if we post there, people will jump in and help you anytime, right? So start with that, and the assignments are posted in the Google Classroom. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I like that the GitHub learning path is a lot different just than when you click on Meetup and you see learning path, and it's just like a hand drawing of a learning path. It's just a flow chart.
Yeah.
And it's really confusing to find, like, you have a GitHub document path and you have this Google document path, and if we're using Google discussion and Slack and chatting here, and I'd like to know, first of all, what's that extension you're using in your browser to do the code? It looks like a Python extension.
Oh, this thing here?
Yes, that right there.
Right, yeah. So this is basically Jupyter notebook, right?
Okay.
So that's
I'm
what
behind.
Python.
I'm behind.
Yeah.
Now, so that is Jupyter extension. Okay, I understand that. So what would you recommend to start? Because even some of this, I'm probably not the only one that I couldn't even get into the Zoom meeting last week because it's
right.
So confusing to find. You go from Meetup to Elephant to Eventbrite, and still you can't find the Zoom link unless you finally go through a Google document and you find the tiny URL.
That's right. Yeah. So your point is well taken, and I apologize because I'm still sort of trying to figure out what's the best effective way to have like a like a single point of contact. My intention is like this document will be this one single point. So you basically come here.
Everything
is here, right? And when you set up the Eventbrite, and we didn't sort of think this through all the way. I know I wish I could have, but yeah, we kind of kept making changes, and I finally said, hey, you know what? This is the one. This is the document, right? So it doesn't matter where you join from, whether you join from Meetup or Eventbrite, you know, however. I hope you are here. I'll post this link one more time, right? So kind of be here, and then you know everything is going to be here, right? So
thank you.
Yeah, and exactly, and I sort of put Zoom link and everything right here. So yeah, so we were like not very well organized early on, but yeah, but hopefully I think you know we are finding our feet. So thank you for the feedback.
In Meetup, it'll say you can join if you're an attendee, and I'm listed as an attendee. But
Oh, I see. Okay.
It won't even give me the URL for the.
Gotcha.
Zoom.
I will double check on the Meetup because you know it's when my partner posts on the Meetup. I will double check our Meetup listings. We want to make sure you guys come to the right page, right? Because we don't want anyway, yeah. So okay, I'll take this up. I know as my to-do item for me. Right. I'll look into this. Thank you for this. Yeah. Okay, I'll do that, guys. Thank you. Yeah. Now for the coordination, again, we are a little flux on the end, guys, and I know some of you on Slack, some of you on Google Groups. So again, I'm kind of letting these two kind of go together because we'll kind of figure out which one works for us, right? So yeah, so for the time being, just be on both. So I'm kind of posting on Google Group. The reason is when I post something on Slack, it's kind of scrolls up so fast, it's kind of, like it's easy to miss. But when I post on the group, it kind of, right, it kind of stays, and you can sort of, you can say it, you can, bookmark it if you, whatever. It's like email, you know what I mean? So that's what I will do. And we will see how these tools evolve. And I know some of you are even posting on the classroom, like, if you go to an assignment, right, you can actually look at, like, you can see actually people posting assignment comments as well. Yeah, so either way, right, we'll figure out which one works for you guys, right? So again, don't get hung up. The goal here is keep moving through the curriculum as quickly as possible. The rest of this is just tooling, right? Just kind of, like whether it's Slack or Google Group, whatever works. I'm not hang up on one or the other. Yeah. And if you guys come and tell me, this Google Classroom is a pain in the butt to use, we'll find something else. But for the most part, I think it's kind of working out, right? I would say. So.
Also, in Slack, it is keeping only 10,000 messages.
That's true. Yeah.
Previous one just
just
discarded. So if you really want to keep notes and go back to them, I think it's better to use the groups.
Exactly. I mean, to me, Slack is a real-time community. Like, let's say because I'm working as a group, and you want to quickly say, hey, like, is somebody having this problem? You know what I mean? Slack is real. That's great for that. Groups is good for, like, if you have people in different time zone and you want to post a question and people kind of get to it, just like an email, right? They will kind of read it and answer at their own time. Anyway, like I said, I'm not going to push one or the other for you guys. You guys can find whichever works for you guys, right? That's all. Because in a group, I think we have like, we are like pretty much, a lot of people join the group, right? I have like, almost 90 people. I don't Slack, I have like almost 100 plus people. So, right? So, all right, guys, what else? Very quickly, we should, any sort of logistics, anything else we need to figure out? So the learning path, right? Again, this is some I'm sort of updating, as we go along, right? I'm kind of, so I'm sort of doing on a week basis. So right now, if you look at it and say, hey, is this all there is? No, there's more coming. Just like, I'm sort of updating it as we go along, right? And we'll see. Good, guys. Anything else? Cool. So kind of here's where we are, right? We are kind of week 2, right? So we did the Python and the Numpy. Next week we're going to do pandas and visualizations, and the week after we are going to do basic stats, and also the final EDA. This is what I call exploratory data analytics. This is kind of putting it all together, right? So if you look at machine learning things, right? If you look at all the machine learning things we teach, we always say, hey, can you do some basic EDA, right? Meaning analyze the data, right? Analyze the data. And for this, you will kind of do things like maybe do some stats, right? Maybe sort of do some, understanding, how the data is skewed, maybe do like a little graph, right? All these things you will do. And that's what we are sort of building up towards, guys, right? And then once that is behind us, we're going to start with the algorithms. And once the algorithm starts, it'll go pretty quickly, right? Because we are kind of building on. That's why, even if you're kind of a little falling behind, kind of try to catch up a little bit. Like I said, you don't have to, like when you're doing this, like I said, for example, let's say Python data structures, right? Let's say you want to do some, say, dictionary or whatever, right? And these are some of the exercises I'm sort of giving you guys, just so you can practice, practice some coding, right? So let's say you want to look at dictionaries, right? So look at the dictionaries, kind of, let's say you want to say, hey, I don't have a lot of time. I'm just going to maybe do like a couple of A's, right? And maybe, one B. That's fine, right? So figure it out, and you can always go back and, kind of catch up or do this, right? Okay, so solutions, right? So as we're doing this, one of the things I want to make sure this class is useful to you guys is going to give you guys solutions. I am working on the solutions, but I'm also going to, because since, there are a lot of these, right? I like some help from you guys. For example, let's say if you're sort of going through this, right? Let's say how to do this, right? I'm looking for some volunteers if you have some time, and if you're already doing this and, you're happy to share your notebook, I'm happy to kind of lift your solutions and kind of put them on like one big notebook, right? And I'm happy to give you guys credit, like, if you want to like have your email there, right? I can put you as a credit there. I'm happy to do all that, right? So this way, it's not me as a bottleneck, because I do want to give you guys solutions, right? Because that's part of it. Like as you're learning through, you need to have a solution to complete the learning process, and they are coming. I'm probably a week behind, right?
So
giving you a solution.
Is that a GitHub link and the elephant data link all on the Google spreadsheet?
Yes, everything's here, right? So yeah, just like I said, this is the place, right?
Yeah.
Come in here,
yes.
And then you will find everything here, please. Yeah. So
okay, learn the elephant. And
exactly. Yep.
Okay, I'll try to do some work on that.
Sure thing. Yep. So again, guys, this is kind of between self-paced and kind of right? That's why it's called guided, meaning we kind of want to push you guys along, so we don't fall too far back, right? Okay, solutions. A lot of you guys volunteered. Thank you for that. What I need from you guys is your GitHub IDs. This way, I can give you access to the repo, and then once the notebook is ready, like for example, let's say we have a notebook for say Numpy 1 ready, right? I will make it available to you guys. So I'm working on this right now. Yeah. Good, guys. Anything else? So solutions are coming. I'm probably a week behind. Okay. And I will post the assignment for next week. Is everybody kind of clear on kind of the kind of the path we are following, at least for the first 5 weeks? And I'm going to apply update this soon. So give me some time.
Suji, I have a question. I know this morning you changed the content of the Python 5 assignments. Do we need to redo it again?
No, please don't. Actually, yeah. So yeah, thank you for noticing this. So one of the comments I had was people said, hey, it's kind of confusing. It's all kind of meshed into one big file. Can you break it up into smaller pieces? And I thought that's a good feedback. So what I've done is like I kind of broke those into like different like for example now lists in its own file, just to kind of keep things keep this a little bit manageable. That's it. So you don't need to resubmit. Whatever you have is good. You know what I mean? And then we will adjust. So again, remember, this is kind of work in progress, and I'll kind of update this. So yeah, if you submit the assignment, you are good, because just the order has changed. Like for example, like what used to be maybe A4, now maybe A5. You know what I mean? But the question is still intact, so you're good, right? Yeah. Just a little reorganizing just to keep things easier. And this is a final exercise, and like for example, if you guys right, if you say, hey, okay, what, I'm reasonably comfortable in the basics. Okay, let's go and let me sort of exercise my right. So these are kind of, how do you say, what I call section exercises. They kind of use everything we learned into a thing, and you'll write some maybe a dozen or two Python code to make this happen. Okay. Good, guys. What else? For the classroom, Richard, you need to join, because the link is going to be different for everybody, right? Because Google will assign, I think they do like a unique link for everybody or something like this. So you need to kind of go to the classroom and then sign in, right? For example, if I go to Google Classroom, right, this is how mine will look like. Right, so it'll kind of show me all the classes I'm part of, right? And then when you click on this, I don't know, like if this, I don't know if you get the same link or if they give you like a unique link for you. So yeah, right. So start from the top, and then kind of and then kind of use the sign up code. Remember, I given you a sign up code for the Google group, Google Classroom. Use it to join the class. Okay. Yeah. So the links may or may not work. So just be wary. Yeah. Good, guys. Anything else?
Hey, Suzy, Dinesh here.
Please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, like, can you spend like 5 to 10 minutes of, the whole hour, like discussing about the next upcoming assignment? Like, let's say, for example, the pandas is due for the next week. If you could just give us an overview, like, like saying that these are the couple of books I had tested over here and what exactly is pandas, like, So I feel that establishes a connect from class to class,
Gotcha.
Rather
sure,
than,
right?
or else it is, it seems like,
Yeah.
more or less like we are doing the assignments and coming to the class just to discuss the assignments, but there seems to be a little bit of connect missing between the classes, You don't have to spend much of your time because I see the point, like you're trying to position this class between self-paced and teaching class. But at least 5 to 10 minutes of your time makes a lot of difference for us.
Definitely,
to keep the flow, actually.
Yeah, no, that's very good, actually. Yeah, and that's a very good point, and I'm happy to do that. So guys, so here's where we are, right? Let's back to the curriculum very quickly. So where are we at, right? So we are using, right? So this week you guys are using sort of data structures, right? This is basically getting used to Python, and then we are started with Numpy, and the next week we are doing pandas, and we are on the visualization library, right? So why are we learning these two, guys? Let me do a quick overview. So here, the reason we're using Numpy, right, is basically, remember, Python is a great language. It's a dynamic language, right? However, initially the numeric library in Python is basically not very fast. So a lot of people liked Python as a language, but the number processing was very weak, very slow. So people didn't use it for scientific computation. And that's why Numpy was created. So the way I look at Numpy is basically, right? So the way it's structured is, so Numpy, most of the part is written in C++, and with a very small Python layer on top, right? So if you look at Numpy, you are still programming in Python code. You write in Python code, but actual execution happens in C++, right? So that's a very fast native code, right? And this is why Numpy became very popular, because they really implemented numeric processing, like things like arrays and matrices and things, right? Because a lot of the machine learning depends on all of this. And if you look at this, Numpy became sort of de facto, right? So if you look at this here, right, Numpy is the base library. Everybody is building on Numpy, right? So pandas, which I will look at next, even the graph library, matplot, stats packages, scikit-learn. So Numpy is like a basic building, like a sort of the building block for everything else, right? So that's why it's kind of good to learn nonce and Numpy, because even when you're doing, say, scikit-learn, you'll be kind of using Numpy to do some quick manipulation of the data, right? So that's why, right? So there are books written about Numpy. There are like actual courses about Numpy. But for our purpose, we want to learn the basics, and that's why I'm going to give you guys some of the basics for Numpy, right? To kind of understand, read like specific chapters. And when you look at one of the things that confuses people in Numpy is, right, once you start learning Numpy, right, basically you're learning arrays, right? How to define arrays in Numpy, and that's why the exercise kind of walk you through. All right. Define an array, right? Print this element, print that element, right? So, and then also you sort of start looking at things like, okay, how do you initialize an array with 0 elements, right? And right, so kind of slightly you're kind of building basic arrays, and the indexing section we are showing you is how to index an array. And trust me, these will become very handy when you do machine learning, because sometimes you want to sort of extract certain columns, extract certain ranges, right? And we are going to be using Numpy. This Numpy tricks to do that. Yeah. So that's what the Numpy is, right? So is that going to make sense on a like a very high level point of view NumPy, right? So and again NumPy, I mean I'm still showing you some slides, guys, but if you look at the slides, they're mostly code, right? Because NumPy, the best way to learn NumPy is basically sort of practicing NumPy, and that's why I kind of gave you guys a lot of exercises to kind of go through, right? So go through that, okay? Then sort of come back from here with NumPy to pandas. Let me go back here, right? So NumPy is the base level. Next week we're going to go to pandas. So pandas is basically a library for using basically data manipulation, right? And again, it's, as you can see, it's built on NumPy, right? So there's a very efficient representation of numbers, and we're going to be using pandas to load what we call structured data. So think like an Excel spreadsheet, right? If I give you an Excel spreadsheet like a CSV file, and then say, okay, here, go pass, go do some work on this. And trust me, a lot of the machine learning project you guys do guys are going to be structured data, right? So we're going to be using pandas to kind of, right? To kind of, basically manipulate data, right? So for example, so pandas works in like, things like a series. So you look at this kind of like here, right? Let me show you guys a couple of diagrams just to kind of give you guys an idea, right? So you do panda data frame. If you think of a data frame, think like an Excel spreadsheet, right? You have like index column that just index the row, right? Row number 0, row number 1, row number 2, and you have a bunch of columns with data. So Panda data frame is exactly structured like an Excel spreadsheet, just so you know, and because most of the data is going to be like that anyway, right? And this data frame concept is so popular, pretty much even Spark implement the same concept, right? We sort of treat data like a structured spreadsheet. Okay? So once you learn the basics of the pandas, so then we ask you guys to say, okay, hey, okay, how do you sort of work on the data frame? For example, and this is what the exercise you guys are doing, right? Some basic exercise. How do you slice data, right? For example, right? How do you slice horizontally? How do you slice vertically? And all these things, and if you sort of go to the exercise, you'll kind of it's going to kind of reinforce the concepts. Right? So overall goal, what are we doing? We are basically learning how to deal with structured data, because machine learning, right? For example, if I show you, right? If I show you this data for this machine learning class, right? I'm actually reading a CSV file, and this is my file, right? So you can see right now I have my data in a structured format. So like your customer ID, phone service, right? This is like a phone data, right? So it's at the end of the day, it's just a pandas data frame. From here on, right?
So just sorry to interrupt.
Sure, go on. Yeah.
So to me, this is the first time I'm saying this, but what is the similarity between a SQL structured query language and this? I mean, it kind of looks same to me, more or less.
Yeah, very similar. Actually, if you look at this, right, when we do SQL, right, when you do SQL, basically what happens is, we have a table, right? So imagine like a database table with rows and columns.
Yeah, it's more like a database.
Exactly, right? So here, so you use SQL, we have a database. So here it could be like a CSV file, right? Pretty much has the same structure, right? It has columns. Columns have types. For example, like this column, you can say this is a string column. You can say this is the integer column, right? Or this is a floating column, right? You can assign types to the columns as well, right? And then you can query the data. Right? So yeah, so SQL is very specific to databases, right? So think like pandas is sort of the SQL. I mean, this is kind of, this is kind of stretching a little bit, but I mean, you can sort of get the point. Think like if you have structured data, because if you have database, your database has structure, right? You can say, hey, my database has 10 columns. First column is integer, second column is string, so on and so forth. CSV files also same thing, right? They have like structured file. And Pandas is a nice high-level library that helps us process this data very easily. That's it, right? Sort of in a simple summary, right? Yeah. Because if you write code like to read the CSV file line by line and then parse the data, it's just too much work, right? So here we sort of do, we simply do, we say pandas.read.csv. So pandas will read the data, and then also not only reads the data, it actually parses the data into columns, right? And figures out their types, right? And say, okay, it'll say, okay, what kind of data is it? Is it like integer data? Is it like a timestamp? Right? It'll kind of figure all that out. Yeah. So yeah, so and trust me, when you do machine learning in Python, you will pretty much deal in a lot of data frames, which is basically pandas data frame, right? And that's why
what you're saying is more like Excel.
Basically, yeah, exactly, yep.
Yeah. So it's not SQL. We're basically hard coding Excel, edit function, sort, view.
Yeah, exactly.
Find.
Yep. So imagine an Excel spreadsheet, and I'm asking to do like a sorting or filtering, right? And something like that. Exactly. And pandas, basically, you can do this in pandas in Python. Yep. Yep. Because Excel spreadsheet is basically a structured data, right? So.
Suji, can you say a couple of things about why we're doing it? If you take a traditional relational database, a table, and all that, and you were trying to do anything machine learning, contrasting that with doing it in Python, I think that would reinforce why we're doing all this stuff.
Yeah, good question. Yeah, so the way you're thinking about this is your data has to live someplace, right? So it could be your database, right? A lot of the times when you want to do machine learning, you may not be really, so for example, it's very, very hard to do, say machine learning on SQL. So you have to do this outside the database, right? So how do you get the data out? So what you can do is you can actually read the data directly from a database into your machine learning algorithms, right? And people do this sometimes, but usually what happens is we actually export the data out from a database into, say, let's say a CSV format, right? And then we then use pandas to read the data and then feed it to machine learning. So is it going to make sense? So usually we don't directly read from the database because sometimes, I may not even have access to a database, right? Because, we worked on projects, the database is very, it's like a production database, sensitive data. So they won't even give us access to database, right? They will export the database out and give us the actual export file. So let's say a CSV file. Then we use pandas to load the data, do some data cleaning, and do all the pre-processing, and then we do machine learning. Does that make sense? Kind of the overall workflow, right? So even though your data is kind of sitting on a SQL database somewhere, you may not be able to directly query it because of could be security.
My question was I just tried to relate to the structure, the rows and columns format. So yeah, thank you. That clear.
Yeah. So hopefully, kind of the workflow wise, like why we are where this kind of fits into the workflow. That's where it fits in, right? Basically, basically pre-processing data. Yeah. And also, when you look at the data, not all the data can be structured. Like, let me show you guys this. Right. So I'm sort of jumping around slides, because but just kind of right, just to kind of show you guys some of the samples. It's much easier because I already have the right. So if you look at the data, people ask me, what are the different types of data? I'm sorry, was that a question?
Yeah, I'm asking why use a spreadsheet or a CSV when a database can get indexed. Wouldn't that be more efficient for a machine learning?
Great question, actually, yeah. So when machine learning, so that's a great question. So let me sort of step back a little bit, and that's a great question. So let me kind of go back here. So in a database, right? So when I have a database table, so let's say, let's say it's a customer database, let's say customer ID, say 10. And the database are really great for quickly going in and locating customer ID 10. If I go and say, write a SQL query, find customer data where customer ID equal 10, databases can quickly find the data. That's where all the indexing and everything is built in, right? So that's really great for that. However, here's the trick: when you do machine learning, we usually scan the entire table data. So we do table scan. So the whole indexing, right, it's kind of moot at this point because when you do machine learning, we don't look at like one data point. We should look at pretty much all the data points.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right.
So you can learn from the entire
data set, exactly, right? So at this point, right, so even the database has some really fancy indexing, I'm not using it because, at this point, I might as well just, export the data into CSV file, right? And then, just do, feed it to machine learning because that makes my logistics much simpler. Does that make sense, kind of the big picture? Yeah.
I think once you move to the CSV, all the metadata is last, and then whatever the metadata that Pandas or whichever tool derives it, That's the one going forward, right?
Right. And you might, so it's something like you can say, hey, wait a second. So let's say I had to export to CSV, right? But let's say your database is getting updated with new data. So what happens to new data, right? That's a good question. So what we'll do is we'll periodically, export the data out. So let's say this kind, another data, and we run the machine learning. So machine learning is always an iterative process. It's not like, I'm doing machine learning today and I'm done, right? Maybe, we'll refresh a model next week on, on a monthly basis, whatever, right? With the new data. So this is like an ongoing process.
You don't need to really dump everything into a CSV file, right? You can directly connect from Panda to Oracle or SQL or MySQL and bring in data.
You can, yeah. So one of the things, so pandas can read from multiple data sources. It could be, you can even read directly from a database table, right? And this is, if you have access to it, this is fine, right? But a lot of the time, what you will find is the database access kind of locked down, right? Either it's it's production database or sensitive data, whatever. So they probably wouldn't give you direct access to database. They will give you an export instead. But yeah, if you have access to database, sure, you can directly connect pandas, and you can pull data directly from the database.
So is it good to say that Pandas has a lot of user-friendly functions to work with the tabular data?
That's right. Yeah. So and that's what this week you guys are going to do, right? This week, excuse me, we are going to start with pandas, and you guys will see how easy it is to read data and manipulate data in pandas. That's exactly why it's written for, right? Basically, reading structured data and manipulating them.
Does it use API access for the database?
Yeah, I think they do. I think they have they support both JDBC and ODBC standards. So and these days, pretty much every database, has JDBC, ODBC access, and they will do that. And also, if you have a specific driver to your database, they can use that too, right?
So we'll get to machine learning code, but does that start processing and doing arrays and indexes in the machine language?
Yes. So
okay.
when you're in machine learning, right? When you're in the machine learning ecosystem, at this point, it's just raw number crunching, just like zeros and ones, arrays and matrices. That's it, right? In this domain, we don't really care about SQL or anything else. At this point, this is all I'm dealing is number crunching. So think like an Excel spreadsheet, I'm crunching through numbers, and that's what the machine learning libraries care about: how fast you can crunch the numbers, right? That's it. Even though the data may have come from this, it'll look very different, when we actually start doing machine learning, right? Because so we have to do a bunch of steps to convert the data from this format, right, kind of to the format machine learning really accepts. And we'll talk about it in the next coming weeks. Is that going to make sense? Because kind of the big picture, right?
Thank you. That's a great explanation.
Yep. Good. Oh yeah. So talking about structured data, right? Kind of people ask me, what kind of data machine learning works on. So to understand this, we need to understand the data structures as well. So we can have structured data and unstructured data. So what is structured data? So think about structured data, right? This is like think like your database table, right? So here's a database table that has some housing data, right? Number of bedrooms, bathrooms, and sale price. Structured. Or your data could be in a CSV format. Structured, right? You can say CSV has 3 columns. First column is this, second column is this, so on and so forth. Or you can be in something like a JSON format, right? JSON format is structured data too. You guys can see this, right? Structured too, right? So I can have these like a key value pairs.
That's what I'm more used to.
Yep, these are all structured data, right? And in machine learning libraries, and so the pandas or whatever, right? They can actually process structured data very, very efficiently. Then you have something called unstructured data. Like for example, what about email? Or we like Word documents, right? There's no like a rows and columns, right? They're just a bunch of text. What about if you have a bunch of pictures? You're like just pictures, images are just a bunch of pixels, right? Videos are basically a series of images, right? So now you can imagine this is what we call unstructured data. So sometimes you have your data in this format. How do you process it, right? So a lot of the machine learning you will find, sometimes you will end up with semi-structured data. What is semi-structured? By the way, guys, like if you guys like something you like, feel free to take a screenshot, right? So this way, and a lot of people do that. So if you cannot, like something, you just take a screenshot of the Zoom window, right? This way, if you want to save something, right? So, so here's a sort of what I call semi-structure, right? So this, let's say I'm calling an API, like a tweet API, and I get this data back. And look at this data. some data structure. So you can say user ID. Now that's very well structured. I know, right? Timestamp. I know I can pass that, right? These are all structured data. GPS location, right? Sure. But if you look at the actual tweet, it's just a bunch of text, right? But I mean, do you guys see any structure in the tweets? Like if you look at the actual tweet text, can you maybe extract, anything out of this?
You can extract the hashtags.
Yep. You can look at the hashtags. Yeah, that there is something there, right? Hashtags or the @ sign, right? And if you're really doing some deep learning, you can say, okay, you can say, hey, this is Seattle downtown. So that's a location, right? And you can say entity. What are the entities mentioned? Starbucks. So Starbucks is what is it? A company, right? Right. And then somebody mentioned pumpkin spice latte, right? Another entity. So right. So even text, right? Once you start looking deep enough, you can start extracting meaning from the text. But like if you look at the text as a whole, you think, just a bunch of words, right? There's no structure, but there is structure, but not as obvious as we would think, right? And let's say they post the picture, right, of the whatever, right, PSL, right? So maybe you can look at the image, and maybe we're doing some image analysis. You can say, oh, okay, this is a picture of a coffee, right? So you can see, right? So a lot of the real world data we get tend to be kind of mixed. So we need to be clever about figuring out, okay, which one we can actually process easily, which one we need, like, for example, this text processing, this will take some time to kind of, extract. Like, for example, reading text and extracting, this is called entity extraction, right? Meaning like, when I say entity, we talk about places, people, and things, right? Places. What is a place? Seattle. People, maybe, there's nobody mentioned. Things. What are the things mentioned? Pumpkin spice latte, right? So these take a little bit more in-depth analysis to extract. Anyway, so we'll see this a little later in the course, right? Anyhow, so when you look at structured data, right? And one of the things people ask is like, should you do machine learning or deep learning, right? So a lot of the times we ask, what kind of data do you have? Right? So let me show you guys this. Are you guys okay if you're slightly over the time? And I hope you're okay here. If you need to leave, please, right, feel free to drop off, but I'll kind of finish this thought, right? One of the things people ask is, should we do machine learning or deep learning? Questions are always simple, right? So here's a chart. You gotta kind of remember this, because let's say I'm adding more, you have data size. Data keeps going up. And let's say this is my algorithm performance. Machine learning algorithm, right? And as we know, as we add data, the performance will increase. They're learning from more and more data. But after a certain time, they can start plateauing out. You can see this, right? So after a certain point, doesn't matter how much data you add, you're not going to see a much increase in performance. Deep learning algorithm, however, they're going to start slow, right? But they scale better with data, right? So deep learning algorithm usually scale better with data, as you can see here, right? Now,
is that just because it's accessing more different data types, like tweets and emails and?
Right, actually, yeah, because it's basically because the algorithms are very different, right? The algorithms used in machine learning and deep learning are very different. So the deep learning algorithms, they are pretty intense, but they need a lot of data to really get the best value out of them, right? So we kind of, put this in a little historical perspective, right? Imagine this, right? Kind of this curve, right? So imagine, this is the data size at the bottom, same as before, right? In the early 80s and 90s, we didn't have a lot of data, right? So the traditional machine learning approach gave us better results. And you can sort of see the data is going to keep moving this way, right? So now as the data kind of starts moving this way, right? Now we are kind of here. So large companies like Facebook, Amazon, Google, they have so much data. So for them, right, they are past this threshold point, right? For them, neural networks are giving better results, right, than traditional machine learning approach. But here, so you might think, oh, wait a second, so then we should just use neural networks. But here's a kicker though, right? Not everybody has this much data. Right? So most companies, if you look at them, they will probably have data maybe around here. So in that case, right, maybe a traditional machine learning algorithm can give you better results than a deep learning algorithm. If you're here, right, that's great. If you're here, maybe neural networks can give you better results than traditional machine learning algorithm, right? So it's not either or. So that's why we teach both to our clients. Because a lot of the time, even though neural networks are getting a lot of attention these days, because they are getting, they are doing a lot of cutting edge research on that one. Let me tell you, in the industry, a lot of the actual day-to-day stuff is just traditional machine learning. And when we choose the algorithm, we look at and say, how much data do we have, right? Should we go machine learning or deep learning? Sometimes you have to just try both and then see which one gives you better results. So I will always say, I'm not going to tell you which one to use, but I'm going to show you guys how to use both. And then you guys can decide which one works for you guys. Is that going to make sense, guys, right? So I'll do one final thing just to kind of settle this debate, right? Basically, people ask us, should I use machine learning or deep learning, right? Same thing here, right? So first of all, we just seen the data size, right? How much data do you have? So that kind of determines whether you want to do machine learning or deep learning, right? So that's one decision point you have to take into account. And also, next thing you have to think about is what kind of data do I have, right? So for example, if you have structured data, like, like a CSV file, JSON file, database files, right? Then you can use both machine learning and deep learning algorithms. Then both options are open for you. When you have unstructured data, things like, let's say you have some images, right? You're just plain text. Right now, deep learning algorithms have a leg up on the unstructured area, right? So if you come to me and say, Suji, I have a bunch of images, which one should I use? Most likely, I'm going to guide you through deep learning, because those algorithms are, they do really well in unstructured data, right? And if if you tell me I only have 100 images to train my algorithm, I'm also going to tell you, you need a lot more images, right? To train your data, so train your network. Is that going to make sense, guys, right? So, and that's why I'm going to mention this to you guys, because when you guys make a decision, it's not like, you can just pick one. There's like a process that you have to go through and say, hey, which one are we going to use? And if you choose neural networks or deep learning, right, make sure, right, we have a lot of data, and also they have very intense algorithm. You need a lot of compute power to train them. So that's why we recommend using GPUs, right? If you have them, because they have computationally very intensive. Is that going to give you kind of a sense, guys, right now, right? Okay, I'll sort of stop here and see if there's any other questions, right? So,
Suji, are the slides available as the course materials as well?
Yeah, I'm going to figure out a way to send you the slides. Yeah, right. So I'll send the slides out. Give me a few days. Yep. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Good, guys. Is that going to make sense? Kind of right on a big picture, because it's important to understand the big picture, right? So.
Hey, just one question. So I just added my name to that list, and I reached out a couple of people to form the group. I think. How do you know that the groups have been formed? Or do we, what do we need to do to make sure the groups are all,
sure.
crystal clear?
What I would recommend, guys, like, I sort of see, people already kind of, so you guys are already here, I believe, right? This is, everyone's detail. So if you're on the same group, maybe, you can, let's say you're on, let's say in a central time zone, just, email them and say, hey guys, I'm interested in your group. I know you guys already have this, right? And you can see, they kind of started forming them already, right? So yeah, just email them directly, right? And then kind of, right, coordinate among yourself, guys. So this way, if you're in Central, there could be more than one team in Central. You know what I mean? Doesn't need to be one team. So I just email them directly, please, or your own Slack, either way, right? Yeah.
So the green area is already, they have a group, right? They're assigned a partner already.
Actually, I'm going to clear this, because this is kind of this is something I did. Because remember, I did the random assignment earlier, so I cannot, let me just clear this, because that's kind of confusing. Because now that we are going groups, we don't need this anymore, right? So okay, now everybody's the same. It's so there's no right, there's no tagged. I'll delete this too. All right, right. Yeah. So feel free to kind of coordinate among yourself. Either use Slack, Google Group, either way, right? Or you just email directly. We're kind of aiming for like 4 people per group, but if you have like 6 people, right, no big deal. Or 3 people, no big deal. You know what I mean? Like, so we'll see how everything kind of forms out. Cool. All right, guys, so I'm leaving this up to you guys to take initial crack, right? Because I think that's the best assignment, right? Rather than me assigning randomly, because right, this way you can coordinate among yourself. And if there's anybody left, after that, then we will do some random assignments. Okay. All right, guys, good. What else? Maybe I'll finish up in like 5 minutes. So we will do the right. So as the course is kind of more crystallizing now, right? We are kind of we are kind of getting a groove. I want to be a little bit more formal next week, so we'll kind of discuss some theory, right? Maybe 15-20 minutes, and then review the solutions, and keep going. Does that make sense, guys? So I think that this way is useful to everybody. And if we're using slides, I'll email you the slides. Yeah, cool. That's a plan. Anything else we should discuss, guys, before we wrap up?
I had a quick question about some of the content in the sort of introduction slides that you just covered. We can do that now, or if you want to finish something, we can circle back up to later.
Oh, sorry, you're kind of cutting in and out. One more time, please.
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me better now?
Slightly. Yeah, go on. Yeah.
Okay. So when you were doing this distinction between like deep learning and machine learning, like I have sort of training is like sort of from an economics background where everything we did was basically some sort of like frequentist linear modeling.
Mm-hmm.
So like how would OLS or ordinary least squares basically like how would you fit it in that kind of analysis within this framework of deep
right. Yeah. So OLS, something like OLS, or regressions, that'll fall, that'll basically fall squarely under machine learning, right? So so these are what we call traditional machine learning techniques, like regressions, classification, right? Like things like OLS will fall under machine learning, right? Deep learning is a little bit more. They have very different underlying architecture, and we'll look at this a little later. But yeah, right. So deep learnings are very different. There's very different algorithms. Yeah.
Thanks.
So I'll kind of stop here because I know it's kind of a deep, kind of a deep topic, and I don't want to get into it right now. But we will definitely kind of cover these as we go along, right? So so right now I kind of want to get the fundamentals out of the way, guys. So we are kind of we can start machine learning soon. Yep. Good, guys. So like I said, the course will kind of accelerate, once you once you have all the basics out of the way. But also I want to be sensitive toward your other commitments, your work, life, right? Right, and then COVID. so strange times. So the idea here is this, right? You decide your own pace, right? I will sort of keep pushing the class kind of along the same lines. You can tell me, right? You can say, hey, this is too much. We should slow down. Or you can say, this is going too slowly. We should speed up, right? It's completely up to you guys. But I kind of have a pretty good idea of what we should cover, right? And so I'm going to go through the same things, you do it for our clients. That's been pretty successful. So, right? Again, like for example, right? Remember, this class we teach in like 4 days. Right, so that's a very focused, very intense class. But so obviously the timeline is going to be different for you guys, but the subjects are going to be the same. Is that going to make sense? Yeah. Yep. So, right. Sorry, guys. Was there a question on that one?
So Sujit, it's an outside question. So are you, which time zone are you based in? Like which part of the country are you in?
I'm in Pacific. Yeah. Yep.
You're in, okay, California.
Yeah, I'm in PSD. Yeah, exactly. Yep. I'm Pacific. Yeah, so San Jose, right? Yep. That's where I'm at. Yep. Yep. Cool, guys. So again, thanks for your patience. I know it's been a kind of right. So there are some things we could have done a little smoothly, but I think we have a pretty good plan now. Now the goal is stay focused, right? No distractions. Just keep pushing, and then learn as much as possible, as efficiently as possible. Is that gonna make sense, guys? I hope everybody's with me on this one. Yeah. So.
Yeah, this is Shaktivali. I have the Excel sheet, right?
So the exercises. Yeah, go on. Sorry. So yeah, one more time.
I have to fill the sheet. It's after the sheet, right?
Yeah. So if you could, right, if you could put your name, like if you can edit, put your details here. Yeah. Because we actually forming groups, right? So kind of just add your name here. Yeah. I know like people are like all over the world, right? So like for example, let's say you're in India, or let's say you're in like say Melbourne, China, or let's say you are in Budapest. So somebody from Budapest, yeah. So yeah, you guys can find the partners, right? Because it makes sense for you guys to be in the time zone, because it makes coordination very easier, right? So yeah, thank you. Good, guys. Very good. I think so. I think that's it. Anything else? So keep an eye on the groups. Assignments are coming. Do the best, right? Again, like I said, you don't need to, if you don't get 100%, that's okay. But please don't drop out of the class, right? Stay in the class because we want you guys to be, right? We want to motivate you guys, not to discourage you guys, right? So that's it, guys. I think we figured out a lot of the logistics today. Thank you for all your recommendations. My job is basically now I'll kind of keep pushing this forward. And again, like I said, these are all pretty standard field test curriculum. So I'm pretty confident you like this. We just need to sort of find our pace, right? How fast and how slow we are going. That's it.
Thank you so much.
Good guys, thank you so much. Sorry we're a little over, but we talked about a lot of good things today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Suji,
Thank you.
Suji,
yeah, go on.
Before you leave, you remember there was an attempt to share the coursework between us using, is it the Google Groups?
Yep.
Is this a possibility, or are we still using emailing each other?
All right, so okay, that's a good question.
I know it's
yeah, good question. I don't know the answer to this just yet because now that we are because I was thinking Google because we were doing like individual partners, but now we are doing groups. I think it makes sense. You guys each group kind of comes up with their own way of sharing their work. You can still submit through Google Classroom. That's kind of like a US like official submission, right? But within groups, you can you guys can figure out how you want to do this. Maybe you can create your own Slack channel. You know what I mean, right? That's completely up to you guys. So I'm going to let you guys kind of work it out. Come back and tell me which works, right? And then we will kind of try to perfect that. Yep. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, this is great. I'm feeling pretty good about this, guys. Thank you. We'll talk next week. Yep. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.